Okay. Testing, testing. I think we're good. Welcome back, everybody, to Divine Machinery, Book 4, Outline Explanation, Part 2. Number two of the outline information explanation. Yes, that's quite a mouthful, I would say. Anywho, today we are moving on to Chapter 2 of the 7 full chapters right now. Chapter 8 is in progress. Chapter 7, very long chapter. That's probably going to be like an hour-long video. But today we're doing Chapter 2, which is also a pretty equally lengthy piece of content. There is a lot of information, a lot of setup, a lot of, arcs and foreshadowing that goes into this chapter. Everything kind of branches off from here. So this is very vital, very important chapter. All the chapters are very important, but this one is especially important. Okay? So Chapter 2, focal characters. Here we I just list the main things going on. I like doing these little explanations for these more complex chapters. Right, we have named, pretty much most of the named characters who are present in this chapter. Obviously, they're pretty much Oliver Wandler family members, except for Kian. Kian, I'm a little biased. I like Kian quite a lot. He's one of my favorite guys who I've written so far. I like his goals, his motivations, but we don't see too much of him yet. We'll understand him later. But here we have Ansel. He's kind of the uncle. Jacob, he's really not in the story very much. Miriam, that is Gunn's father. Kina, his mother. Cosmo, it's already labeled. I don't really have to explain it. It kind of shows everything you really need to know right next to their names. But these are the characters you're going to see a decent amount of. Focal characters. Now we kind of narrow it down even more. So we focus on Ansel, Kina, Gunther, and I'm not sure if she's in this chapter as much as I thought she would be when I wrote that part. But here, we have brief outline before the outline. I don't really want to go over this just because it gets expanded in the actual outline. Main questions, I kind of just did this for this chapter. We're kind of early on, so I wanted to make sure I have kind of a focus point, so I can stay on the right path when I'm writing everything. What is Greta's full vision, right? Why was Ansel hesitant? We understand that later. What is Miriam's true grudge for Ansel? We understand that later as well. So most of these are pretty much answered by the time you get to Chapter 7. Gunn is walking down the street after Vitosia left to go for one of the shepherds. Yep, here we see more of the shepherds, more how they work. We get one picking up Vitosia. Gunn turns it down. He's like, oh, I'll figure it out myself. He'll get her out of his own. You can hear the event ending. He still kind of wants a little bit of more alone time, He's kind of trying to vibe right now. He's trying to go down the street. He's trying to live his life, in a way, with peace. Because we get home and we see how crazy his family is. So it's pretty understandable why he kind of really yearns for these sort of quiet moments. As he's walking down the street, he sees a fancy car slowing down the road. Here we got Kian Farmani, our first interaction with the third royal family, Kian, the Farmani family. The legal heads of... I really did not highlight these very much. Sorry. They called him McGraw. He's wearing a light brown suit. Yep, this is kind of a motto. He's always in light brown. I think it makes him kind of stand out just because, there's so many characters. You got to kind of find ways to make them feel more like individual characters instead of kind of variables of like a larger function on it, as well as I almost see black. We kind of get a vibe for him. He's kind of cold. He's not superhuman acting. Doesn't act superhumanly. He greets Gunn, tells him his mother some white word showed up. We kind of see his mock concern here. So he was out with Vitosia. He never felt something from his sin dialect. Yeah, here we get more perspective on what people think of the other families. Such as their strictness, loyalty. He kind of expands what we already suspected about the Maganovs right here. Well, also mentioned some of the conflict. Yep, introduction to some more of the family conflict with the Maganovs. He said he hopes to make him find his bearing soon. Yep. Slight change of voice. We'll see. He says it would be what's best for Vitosia. More kind of mock empathy, right? Kian, it might not be clear here. Kian is a manipulator. Kian is not a very nice person when you really dig deep into who he is. We don't know that yet, obviously. This is more of kind of an initial splash in the pond before we dive into the ocean, okay? It's just terrible. Yep. This makes him think about some of his own family troubles, which he asks how Kian avoids all that sort of trouble. We can see Gunn's kind of naivety. He's still curious. He's young, he wants to learn stuff. He doesn't understand everything, and he doesn't act like he understands everything. He's not super zealous, I guess. Is that the word? I think so. Keen smile when you've got an analogy. Imagine you have an ocean. In that ocean, there are a great number of fish and creatures. If you notice certain fish causing trouble, killing the coral, then you hook them up by the mouth and bury them in the sand. This is kind of expanded even more later. This is, I mean, I don't want to keep saying this over and over again, but it's kind of a common literary technique or a literary device. I don't think device is the correct word, but you kind of set the stage for like analogies and concepts and motivations that are expanded on later early on. So this is kind of a simplified version of Kian's like core philosophy that we get to see a lot more of in chapter 7. I know I keep saying chapter 7, everything pays off in chapter 7. That doesn't mean this isn't good by itself. I still think this is pretty quality content by itself. You don't need to know what happens in chapter 7 for this to, still be entertaining, in my opinion. Yep, here we have the invitation. Kian invites Gun. Gun doesn't really know why he invites him. He's like, why did he do that? And then after he's like, oh, why didn't I ask him why he was out so early, right? I'm out early because I was chasing Batosia. But this guy, he's kind of like a very important guy. He's one of the smartest dudes around. Why was he out so early, But he doesn't ask that because he was kind of nervous just from Kian's whole energy he gives off. He was kind of a little starstruck. I don't think how he should have asked Kian why he was out so early. Yep. Finding some more. Here we get some more environmental storytelling. And now the shepherd shows up. Roll the shepherds. Here we get our first kind of bigger explanation around who the shepherds are, kind of the shepherd's order, what they do. The system of choice related to running the government. Shepherd, like most, wearing a well-made suit. Yep. They kind of have their own unique visual identity, kind of with the chains. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. I don't know why I have a lisp. It's quite embarrassing, I must say. The shepherd, like most, is wearing a well-made suit, robe combo with holy chains. I'm going to be honest. I really like Hunter x Hunter. The chains came from Hunter x Hunter. I'm not going to try to deny it. I love Kurapika, and I just kind of stole it, I guess. I didn't steal it, obviously. It's a whole different setting, whole different environment, whole different, story. But you get the point. The shepherd says he will not scold Gun, for his parents can do that themselves. We kind of see their stern nature. They're not really disciplinary. They're more kind of like, they're an authority. They're like a silent authority. I guess that's the correct word. They don't really say a whole lot. They don't really do a whole lot. But they're there. Everybody knows that they're there. And everybody kind of understands the stakes. For his parents, he knew that himself with slight shame to get home. We can see Gun's kind of shame, the expectations placed upon him by his family, which we dive more into as the chapter proceeds. The Vernon estate is a large, gray and white home. Yep, all the estates are pretty large, but they do have unique identities as well, right? This is something I feel like my writing skills have improved a lot for this. Right, we have multiple things going on. We have all the main settings, the main characters, the focal characters. Everybody kind of has their own unique visual identity, unique emotional identity. And also you have the royal houses, which you're not really going to see all of them yet. This is just the first one. But we can already see that they have unique visual identities. This one is kind of a Spaniard, like Spanish colonial office, Spaniards, that kind of vibe. They're large. The Spaniards were large. They had a lot of stuff going on. These guys got a lot of stuff going on. I mean, it's not a crazy correlation, right? But I like the vibe. I like the energy. I feel like it does kind of match them, just in the way they're kind of conflicted on the inside, the way they kind of rip themselves apart a teeny bit. Here we can see the big family. They're all in the living room. They're kind of arguing. It's after the festival. They're like, oh my god, blah, 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 blah. Runs over with a twisted face. She spots Gun. She's like, oh my god, Gun, what were you doing? This is like such a big event. We got the Saints Ministry. We got the Bladed Angel. We got all this crazy diplomatic affair business occurring, right? And like, you're part of the family. You got to represent the family. You may be only 14. You may not be the head of the family or the next heir to the family or any of that. But you're still a very important figure. You got to kind of do your part, man. You got to do your part. You can't go jittering, guttering, skittering off. She tells Gun the Holy Vicar himself was there, that she and his father are incredibly disappointed. pretty much this is just what I just explained. He tries to talk, but she interrupts him again. We can see she's kind of very controlling, very demanding, right? She's unwavering. She's like, if I want you to sweep the kitchen this way and you sweep it the other way, then you didn't even sweep the kitchen. You didn't sweep the kitchen at all, in my opinion. That's kind of how she sees things. Looks terrible. Gun's grandmother busts in and tries to tell Keenan. That's enough. Here we can kind of see the first sign of Gerda. She's the one trying to unify the families, okay? So she's always trying to kind of de-escalate conflict in the house, no matter what, pretty much. Which does kind of give her an image of, oh my god, she's always in people's business. She's always trying to do stuff. She's trying to get in my stuff, her stuff, his stuff. Can't she just leave us alone? Like, I understand what she's trying to do, but she doesn't really agree with us all the way. And she keeps spouting on about like, leave my kids alone. Mind your own business. She doesn't tries to brush the woman off. We can see that here. Gunn notes that his great-grandparents are gone, likely off meeting with the diplomats from the Saints Ministry. We get our first allusion, whatever the word is, to the current meeting that is going on between the family heads and the Saints Ministry, which we go into in Chapter 4. With that opening, Gunn tries to explain himself, and so that Matosi ran off. He tries to, he's honest here. He's not lying. This guy isn't a snake. He's not trying to lie to save his own face, right? Gunn is, for the most part, a pretty honest person. He's not trying to, get his tail around people. Yep. And then this kind of sets Kina off, because, oh my god, the Maganov family, these guys are dickheads, they're rude, they're telling us our family sucks, everyone's saying our family sucks. Plus, we can also sort of theorize around the kind of how the other families perceive the Verwandler family based off of this, please go away, based off of this interaction here. God never guns his voters, you don't like them. Yep, he's like, guys, you're being kind of racist, not in the racist way, but in the you're generalizing everybody else. You're like, they all suck, and we all do not suck, apart from Gerda and Gunther. They suck, but we don't suck. I'm like, guys, people are individuals. You can't just group them all together. People are different. We have different souls, different skin, different personalities. You can't just say everybody sucks equally, right? But Kina, she's very dismissive. We can see that here. Very controlling. Gunn's dad then speaks up and asks what else happened, to which Gunn explains his brief encounter with Kian. And oh my god, Kian, Verwandlers, they just hate everybody, man. You hate everybody. Do these guys like anyone? Does anyone like the Verwandlers? Do the Verwandlers like anybody else? You know what I mean? Like, this is a lot of setup here. There's a lot of explanation. So later on, it makes a whole lot more sense when Gunn is really trying to strive to get allies for the Verwandler family, and why Weiss is so stressed about not having allies for the family. Root interrupts as everyone throws out their complaints and conflicts with Farmani and the Maganov families, and I'll probably sneak in some more jabs at maybe the Aarons or the Albricks. Gunn uses the cast to slip out of the room. He's an opportunist. Gunn is an opportunist, but he's not a snake. That's an important differentiation to make out of the backyard. He goes to the garden. This is kind of his comfort space, right? There's no noise here. Nobody's screaming at him. Nobody's doing that here, okay? That's why he goes to the garden. It's like his little safe space, where he meets Ansel, his uncle. Within the Verwandler family garden, Gunn finds his uncle Ansel caring for a batch of white flowers that look as if they are bleeding. This kind of sets the tone here. He's like, those are some bad-looking flowers. This is like blood. God does not like blood, does he? But, of course, we do have Jesus on the cross. There was blood there, but God doesn't really know all that. He's not a genius or anything. But he kind of just gets creeped out from the surface level appearance. Tells Gunn that they are a new breed he recently received as a gift from. Here we see Ansel almost slipping up. He almost mentions Abigor, but he does not. Okay, we can kind of see his hesitation, his kind of reluctant alliance already. He stops himself and tells him that they are poppy Pandoras. These are real flowers. I looked up. They look like they are bleeding. I really thought they looked super cool. I like them. I think I layered a pretty interesting message and kind of metaphor around the flowers. Multiple metaphors, actually. Because I really like them. They're pretty flowers. Ansel tells Gunn to lean down and get a better look. When he does so, he comments on how they make him feel uneasy, the way the wine red seems to soak the petals like a soft wound. Very clean, I like that. Ansel gently brushes his hand on one of them and advises Gunn to do the same. When he does so, he doesn't feel any wetness, only the silky soft texture of something like a rose. Here, obviously, I mean, this is kind of a more basic metaphor, right? Stuff looks bad on the surface, but you touch it and it's beautiful. And that kind of gets expanded on here. Ansel uses it to explain something like that. How even things which appear as grotesque and off-putting as this here batch of flowers still feels wondrous as the most beautiful of poppies. Even those who may seem wounded, hurt, or in pain still hold a luscious comfort within their cores. That is the gift of God, the truth of our beings, that no matter what state we may be in, a lullaby which may guide us to paradise always remains, awaiting permission to bloom and offer us its petals. Basically, what that whole segment means is that every tortured, pained soul, every soul that's gone through great suffrage or pain, has a kind of beauty in them. They have, in a way, a key to heaven, a key to good being, right? Like you can feel it inside of them. The surface may look really bad, but you go in there and it's there. You can tell it's there, right? The Holy Spirit is in all of us. God's guidance is in everybody, but it's only how you kind of act upon the guidance you have been given the ability to, I don't think wield is the correct word, I guess utilize. All the lush gift of God, the truth of our beings, that no matter what so we be all that which kindness. Basically, his message is that you should not be calling people crazy and evil and everything. Like, the family might be kind of crazy. You might be like, "Oh, Dad, you're such an asshole, Dad," and "Oh, Mom, why are you so mean to me, Mom?" But the truth is, every single person has the ability to go to heaven, to become the best version of themselves through God, first through self-improvement and through self-love, of course. Don't think deeply about this one in his mind. But then, before we can kind of explain it or go into it the way I did, Ansel picks up one of the petals and holds it in his dirty palm. He picks a petal, his hands are kind of dirty, he likes feeling the earth. This isn't really outright stated, but we can see Ansel does have a yearning for the natural, for the godly in a way, because, right, God made the earth, God made the dirt, so he kind of wants to be connected with that instead of wearing gloves and, protecting himself from that gift. Picks one of the petals, holds it in his dirty palm. He then explains that this petal, in time, will inevitably crumble and die when removed from its seed. He uses this to emphasize how important it is to always remember and try to stay connected. Yeah, basically, you pick a petal, it's going to die eventually. But if you keep the petal on the flower along with all the other petals, then the petal will not die as long as it receives, the proper nutrition, the proper water, the proper... this is not really for flowers, but the proper passion, the proper goals. You get the point. He tells Gun that a single flower may lead to the creation of an entire field of flowers, right? If you stay connected with your petals, if you seek to heal the petals instead of depart from them, then eventually you may end up creating a whole field of flowers, a whole bazillion beautiful flowers, right? That's what happens when you stay connected, when you fight to keep what you have and to improve it instead of abandoning it, Sorry, excuse me. Ansel gives Gun a warm smile. We see Ansel's warm nature here. He's a comforting figure. We are establishing very strongly that Gun looks up to Ansel. Ansel is kind of this peaceful, peaceful, ideological, I can't remember the word. He's a peaceful guy, okay? His ideas are peaceful, and he kind of yearns for a inner love, an inner, outer, occurring wave of compassion. He asks Gun why, to which Ansel then explains that this process has already occurred. We've already seen one flower petal turning into a bazillion amazing, beautiful flower petals. To which Ansel explains that this process already occurred. He says that God was the first seed. God was the first sun, the first speck of dirt, the first soil, the first flower, the first bee, right? The first drop of water, and the first hope in a universe devoid of guidance, right? We are living, or we were, before everybody was alive, we were in a dark place. We had nothing going on. What was going on? Nothing was going on. There was nothing to really do. It was kind of just... But then we got... Now we know where we're going. The path is here. You just got to walk it. But you can walk off of it. You can go the other way, right? He's not going to stop you. You can do whatever you want. But, of course, consequences. Actions have consequences. He asks God why. Ansel tells him that he will never go back on his belief because he has already, in his mind, had his point proven. His ideas have already been objectively proven by the mere fact that he is alive and that he believes in the Lord and our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, right? Like, he's not going back on this. He believes this, of course. This is his deep-seated belief, which is also why it has a much heavier impact in Chapter 7 when we see the other side of Ansel, okay? So it's very important that we really hit Ansel's kind of mindset into the ground. Like, we really get what he's doing. We understand him. Gunn picks a petal of his own. We see kind of Gunn, he's like, yes, I agree with you. I like what you're saying. We should all be kind, love each other. I mean, I'm really dumbing it down, okay? Right? But Gunn is kind of younger. He's not thinking about this stuff in as deep a way as Ansel has. They feel a strong wind going by, and so Ansel throws his hand up and allows both of them to fly off into the breeze together. Right? In a way, this does kind of, I mean, I'm going to be honest, I just made this up on the spot, but it can apply very well. These two petals, we kind of see them, they're removed from the family. These two petals only have each other. So when they go off, this is kind of a deep hope in Ansel that if the family ever truly does abandon him, if they truly reach their breaking point with he and Abigor's pretty much secret, it's not a relationship because, I mean, they're family members, they're kind of secret ties, then he hopes that Gunn will join him and fly off into the wind. Because deep down, it really might not seem like it, but Ansel, just like every other human being in pretty much all of existence, was selfish. Ansel also has selfish desires. He does not want to be alone. Ansel hates being alone, which is why he has had such a strong connection, a strong bond, a strong sorrow for Abigor's situation, for what happened to Abigor, because Abigor was his big man. He was the big boy. He was kind of holding his hand. He was showing him what to do, where to go. He was kind of his father figure, okay? So that's kind of where Ansel's deep desire to not be alone comes from, which is kind of symbolically represented in this moment. I did not think of that when I was writing it. I can be honest about that, but it applies perfectly well, and that is now canon. That's what it represents now, because I think it works very well. Gunn says that he should probably head back inside now. Right, and we have, a little joke here. We're not just going to be all philosophical. We can see the more grounded bond between nephew and uncle. Gunn says that he should probably head back inside now. Ansel nods and gives him one more reminder not to get caught up in all the bickering that goes on, and to always remember what truly matters in the end. This is a very important kind of departing note here. Because, whatchamacallit, this is Ansel's kind of big message. His big message is, don't get caught up in the war that is coming, right? This is very, very heavy stuff here. This applies very heavily to the Heaven's Court and what happens during the Heaven's Court with Gunn's later interaction with Kian, his later kind of mindset change, his inner conflict, his, oh my god, my family's going to get destroyed. I need to fight for my family. I need to kill for my family. And then at the very end, he goes back. He's like, what am I doing here? Why am I getting caught up in all this? I'm supposed to go to heaven, right? I'm supposed to have eternal peace with my loving family. So why am I so distracted? Why am I so fixated on fighting in the name of defending when all I'm really doing is fighting? I'm not really trying to defend anything here. If I truly wanted to defend stuff, then I wouldn't be mixing myself up in all of this war, all of this pain, all of this plotting. Gunn goes inside and heads to his room. As he does so, he overhears a conversation, peeps into the room to his grandpa Metin talking to his grandpa Gunther. Here, we can see the inner family conflict a little bit more. They seem to be arguing about Gerda's unification program. Yep. For the family's various organizations and the head of the Righteous Labor Initiative. Gunn is part of the Labor Initiative, as we will see, and he argues on the specifics. He says, right, Metin tries to be kind of logical, kind of pragmatic about it, but he also does disagree with Gerda and Gunther on a more ideological level as well. If they can't get themselves together soon, they'll be left vulnerable. Here we get our first kind of reference to the Heaven's Court. Right? We can kind of see Gunther was right about this. Later on, Gunther's going to be like, dude, I freaking told you guys we need to come together so the Heaven's Court won't destroy us. Right? I told you so. He gets a lot of I told you so's later. Ben calls Gunn in and has him take a seat on the guest couch. Gunn asks what they were talking about and why the family can't just come in and be happy. Right? More childish naivety right here. Metin tells him that it's very complicated and gets into some of the specific problems around Gurn. More family explanations here. more specifics. That's pretty much what that is. This trouble's gone, but Men changes the topic. The Organics Guns work with Men's Righteous Labor Initiative. He says that if you can keep up, then you can find yourself a good wife on, hopefully. Here we can kind of see the expectations already placed upon Gun in the royal family and in the larger theocratic state of Mikarami. They laugh for a second before we can see he does have a family bond here. They're not just pragmatic little political schemers. Kazuma joking calls out and says, "You heard that?" They laugh for a second, right? We can see Gun isn't just completely polarized to one side of the family, right? He loves both sides of the family, which is very important to establish for, the kind of journey he goes on later. Because if he just likes Ansel, then this isn't really going to work later. Or if he just likes Meten and Kazuma, then it's not really going to work later. Before he gets to his room, he notices Ansel has returned. He's coming up to him holding a flower pot. The flower is an ethereal blue. It's an angel's flower, or a seraph malik. I should probably highlight this. The seraph malik. I think it's a nice word. I made it up, but it sounds cool. It slips off my tongue pretty well. It's an angel flower. Gun seems very impressed as he looks at it. Right? We've already established Gun kind of has a more floristry. What's the word? He likes flowers. He likes beauty. He likes kind of seeing these things that appeal to him visually. Before Gun he needs out Marina stops. Ansel begins to braid him. Here we see, more of how the family's operating here. We got Miriam's already has a grudge against Ansel. Yep, bickering about Ansel to Gun. Then gives him some basic orders and reminds him of who he is and what the family is. This is really more self-explanatory. I don't really need to explain this too much. Marina briefly shows some of the reasons for his overall this is more like a slight reference, like we're kind of like, what does that mean? He said that about Ansel in this other guy, but who is this other guy? Like, what's he on about? Yep. Or I guess I did go into it right here. Abelgor, the heritage of the family, left in good parking and numerous underground movements, gives a great deal of time to drown down. Yep. This is expanded later. Gun stomps into his room and shuts the door. Ugh, he's angry now. Gun has been mostly calm. He's mostly a reactionary person. This could technically be seen as reactionary, but, as we get to the very end, we do see him getting into more active role. He kicks his bed frame and thinks himself. He complains about, oh my god, everybody's so frustrating. Oh, why are they doing this to me? Everybody says I'm amazing, I'm great, I'm smart. So why do they keep doing this annoying stuff to me? Why do they keep freaking pushing me around and telling me what I can and can't do? This is like basic childhood experience, right? This happens to everybody. They keep saying Gun is a great person. No matter. Then he comes up with a plan. He's like, you know what? Fine. You guys want to tell me I'm great, but you don't want to let me do anything. You guys want to lie to me. You guys want to complain about everybody else to me. You guys don't want to love each other. You guys don't want to try to come together. Then fine. I will do something to bring other people together to us. Right? This is the beginning of the kind of outreach plot that Gun goes on to get the Verwandler family allies. Here, it is less to get allies and more him kind of trying to establish himself, him trying to act on his own. He's like, I did that. I brought Vitosia to us. I got us allies. I'm doing this. But he also does want to help Vitosia. He's an empathetic person. He sees Vitosia's kind of extreme ideology. He's like, this girl's only 12. There's still plenty of time to change this. She doesn't need to be this way. We can both be happy in the garden. That's basically it. Act after unify the family. Gina comes from a place of pressure and rebellion, as well as a hope to just get away from his families for a time. And lastly, to also try and help Vitosia and to push her away from some of her current achievements. Yep, that's pretty much what I just said. This also does tie into Valentinus's later arc, where they kind of do share some similar motivations, such as wanting to get away from the family, which is literally like a very big chunk of Valentinus's arc and his motivations. So this does tie into the very, very end. This is book 6 content, okay? This is very in the future content. But it is content and it does occur. Because, spoiler, you have both of them finding peace in the end and it's family. I don't want to say too much more. But, it's very heartwarming. It's one of the only arcs that does technically have a good ending for a character. Or for numerous characters, actually. Okay, that is all of chapter 2, chapter 2, for Wendler House. This is pretty much like twice as long. Yeah, it's over twice as long as the first chapter. So, and we can clearly see that there's a whole lot more going on, a whole lot more we are learning to understand and to see in the church state of Mikarami. Anywho, I can't do any more. Yeah, I think one chapter is pretty much my limit. I can do one chapter of pretty in-depth explanation, and then I'm kind of cooked. I'm kind of done. Thank you for watching, everybody. That was chapter 2 of book 4 of the Divine Machinery book series outline. Thank you for watching. Peace and love. Peace and love, people.